Captain Jake Morrison stared at the control panel with growing worry. The numbers on his screen made no sense. His ship, the Terra Nova, was supposed to jump to light speed in 30 seconds. Instead, the engines were barely working at half power. "Dr. Campbell, we have a problem," Jake called out to the ship's scientist. Lisa Campbell hurried over from her workstation, her dark hair tied back in a quick ponytail. She had been Earth's top quantum physics expert before joining this mission. "What's wrong?" Captain Lisa asked, looking at the strange readings on the screen. "Everything," Jake replied. "Our jump drive should be running at full power. Instead, it's acting like someone changed the rules of how space works." Commander Alex Rodriguez walked over from the weapons station. He was a tall man with serious eyes who used to fight in the Earth Defense Force. "It's not just the engines, sir. Our laser cannons are only working at 60%. Even our computers are running slow." Lisa frowned and ran her hands over the control panel. "This doesn't make sense. Physics doesn't just change. The laws that govern how energy and matter work have been the same for billions of years." Jake had been a starship captain for 15 years. He had seen strange things in deep space, but nothing like this. "Run a full diagnostic on all systems. I want to know what's happening to my ship." As Lisa worked, Jake thought about the past 50 years. Humans had first met aliens in 2337. The Galactic Confederation seemed friendly at first. They shared some technology and helped humans build better spaceships. But lately, things had been different. The aliens seemed nervous about how fast humans were learning and exploring. "Captain, I'm getting reports from other human ships," Alex said, listening to his communication device. "The cargo ship New Hope is having the same problems. So is the research vessel Starfinder. All human ships in this sector are experiencing reduced efficiency." Lisa looked up from her work. "This is impossible. You can't just change the laws of physics in one area of space. It would take more energy than a star produces." Jake walked to the main viewing screen. Outside, the stars looked normal. Space looked the same as always. But something was very wrong. "Lisa, what do you know about the Vorthik?" The Vorthik were the oldest and most powerful race in the Galactic Confederation. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years before humans even invented the wheel. Their technology was so advanced that it seemed like magic to most species. "They're incredibly smart," Lisa said. "Their understanding of physics is far beyond ours. They can manipulate matter and energy in ways we're still trying to understand." Alex crossed his arms. "They're also not very happy with humans lately. I heard from contacts in Earth Command that the Vorthik think we're too unpredictable, too dangerous." Jake had heard the same rumors. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy for being creative problem solvers, while other species followed careful rules and procedures. Humans had a habit of finding new ways to do things. Sometimes these new ways worked better than the old methods. This made some aliens nervous. "Captain," Lisa called out urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy sources throughout this region of space. They're not natural. Someone built them." "What kind of energy sources?" Jake asked. Lisa's fingers danced over her instruments. "I've never seen anything like them. They're putting out a field that seems to be affecting the basic constants of physics. It's like someone is rewriting the rules of how the universe works." Before Jake could respond, the ship's communication system came to life. A deep, alien voice filled the bridge. Jake recognized it immediately. It was Chancellor Zex Thalen of the Vorthik Empire. "Attention all human vessels," the voice said in perfect English. "By order of the Galactic Confederation, new safety protocols are now in effect throughout human space. Your reckless experimentation with physics has been curtailed for the protection of all galactic citizens." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "They're talking about us like we're children who can't be trusted with dangerous toys." The alien voice continued. "All human technology will now operate under standardized galactic physics. This will ensure stability and prevent the chaos that human innovation has brought to our peaceful galaxy. Resistance is futile. These changes are permanent." Lisa's face had gone pale. "Jake, if they can really control physics itself, they can make our ships completely useless. They could strand every human in space." Alex's hand moved to his weapon. "Or worse, they could make our life support system stop working." Jake stood up straight. He had been in dangerous situations before, but this was different. This wasn't a battle he could fight with weapons or clever tactics. The enemy had changed the very rules of reality itself. "How many human colonies are there now?" Jake asked. Over 300, Alex replied. Millions of people spread across dozens of star systems. Jake looked at his crew. These were good people. Who had trusted him to keep them safe? Now they faced an enemy that could rewrite the laws of physics. But Jake had learned something important about humans during his years in space. They were very good at finding ways around rules, even when those rules seemed impossible to break. Lisa, I want you to study these energy fields. Find out exactly how they work. Alex, contact every human ship and colony you can reach. Tell them what's happening. What are you planning? Captain Lisa asked. Jake smiled for the first time since the crisis began. I'm planning to remind the galaxy why humans are so unpredictable. If they want to change the rules, fine. But they're about to learn that humans have never been very good at following rules anyway. Outside the Terra Nova, invisible energy fields continued to alter the fabric of space itself. The Vorthik were confident that their cosmic anchors would force humanity to behave. They had no idea that they had just challenged the most stubborn species in the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the aliens changed the laws of physics. Life on human worlds had become much harder. Spaceships moved slowly. Computers crashed often. Even simple machines stopped working properly. Dr. Lisa Campbell now worked in a secret laboratory deep under the surface of the moon. The lunar research facility was hidden from alien sensors. Here, human scientists tried to understand what had happened to their technology. Lisa stared at her computer screen late at night. She had been working for weeks on the same problem. The energy readings she collected from the Terra Nova showed something impossible. Someone had built machines that could change the basic rules of reality. Still working, Lisa asked Marcus Lee as he walked into the lab. Marcus was a young engineer who had joined the secret project 3 months ago. He was very good at building things that should not work. I think I found something, Lisa said, pointing to her screen. Look at these energy patterns. They're not random. Someone is controlling them. Marcus looked at the data. These readings come from all over human space. There must be hundreds of these machines. Lisa nodded. I think they're called cosmic anchors. They create fields that force physics to work differently. But here's the strange part. They only affect certain types of technology. What do you mean? Marcus asked. Well, Lisa said, pulling up another screen. All the technology that follows proper scientific rules has been affected. Our starships use fusion engines that work exactly like the physics books say they should. Our computers follow all the laws of quantum mechanics perfectly. That's why they're running so slowly now. Marcus scratched his head, but some things still work fine. My cousin Pete lives on New Kansas Colony. He says his homemade fusion reactor works just as well as before. But the official reactor from the Confederation stopped working the first day. Lisa felt excited. This was the first real clue she had found. Tell me more about your cousins. Reactor, Pete built it himself from spare parts. Marcus said he used to be a farmer on Earth before he moved to New Kansas. The reactor doesn't look like anything in the engineering books. It's held together with metal wire and hope. But it's been powering his farm for 5 years without any problems. Lisa's mind raced. What if the cosmic anchors can only change official physics, the kind of physics that aliens understand and approve of? Before Marcus could answer, Captain Diana Walsh walked into the lab. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who used to work for Earth's Secret Service. She had joined the hidden project to help fight back against the aliens. We have a problem, Diana said. 3 more human colonies have agreed to accept full Confederation control. They're desperate because their power systems keep failing. Lisa stood up quickly. Diana, I need you to send a message to all the human colonies. Tell them to stop using official technology. Tell them to start building things the way humans used to before we met the aliens. You mean like jury-rigged machines and improvised solutions? Diana asked. Exactly, Lisa said. I think the cosmic anchors can affect technology that doesn't follow proper scientific rules. Human engineering has always been about making things work, not making them perfect. Marcus grinned. You mean all those times my professors told me my designs were messy and unscientific might actually be a good thing now? That's exactly what I mean, Lisa said. Humans have always been good at finding shortcuts and workarounds. We build things that shouldn't work, but do anyway. The aliens probably never considered that possibility. Diana looked thoughtful. So you're saying that a machine built by someone who doesn't fully understand how it works might actually work better than one built by an expert? In this case, yes, Lisa said. The cosmic anchors rewrite the laws of physics as we understand them, but they can't rewrite something that operates outside of understood physics. Over the next few weeks, word spread quietly through the human colonies. People began sharing old engineering techniques that they had almost forgotten. Farmers like Pete Johnson became heroes for keeping their improvised machines running. On the mining colony of Red Rock, a mechanic named Katie Brooks discovered that she could make starship engines run by talking to them nicely and hitting them with a wrench in just the right spot. Her method made no scientific sense, but it worked. On the research station near Jupiter, retired Professor Henry Davis found that his old experimental weapons worked perfectly. These weapons had never been approved by any scientific committee because they used principles that seemed impossible. Now they were the only human weapons that could still fire at full power. Lisa received reports from all over human space. Everywhere, people were rediscovering the art of making things work through pure determination rather than perfect understanding. The aliens made a big mistake, Lisa told Marcus and Diana one evening. They assumed that all technology follows logical rules, but human technology has always been different. We make things work first and figure out why they work later. Marcus was building a new communication device using this philosophy. It looked like a pile of junk held together with tape, but it could send messages faster than any official human communication system. I still don't understand how this works, Marcus said, holding up his invention. According to everything I learned in engineering school, this should not be able to function. That's the point, Lisa said. It works because you built it without worrying about whether it should work. You just focused on making it do what you needed it to do. Diana had been organizing resistance cells across human space. These groups shared information about building impossible technology. They called themselves physics rebels, and their motto was simple: if it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid. The Confederation is getting worried, Diana reported. Their scientists keep studying our improvised technology, but they can't figure out how it works. They're starting to think that humans might be using some kind of unknown science. Lisa laughed. They're right. In a way, we are using unknown science. We're using the science of not caring whether something makes sense as long as it gets the job done. The resistance was growing stronger every day. Human colonies that had almost given up were now thriving again. Their technology looked ridiculous, but it worked better than ever. But Lisa knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would not give up easily. Soon, the real fight would begin, and when it did, humanity would be ready with an arsenal of impossible machines that work simply because humans believed they should work. The war between official physics and human stubbornness was about to begin. 1 year after the aliens took control, human colonies across the galaxy were thriving in ways that made no sense to anyone watching. The resistance had grown from a few secret groups to a vast network of impossible engineering. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the cargo bay of a hidden asteroid base, looking at the strangest collection of spaceships he had ever seen. These vessels were part of what the Resistance called the Impossible Fleet. Each ship had been built using pure human stubbornness instead of proper engineering. That one there, said Katie Brooks, pointing to a small fighter ship, runs on coffee grounds and determination. I know it sounds crazy, but it's faster than any official fighter we ever built. Katie had become famous throughout human space for her ability to make broken machines work again. She was only 19 years old, but veteran engineers came to her for advice. Her secret was simple. She talked to machines like they were friends and fixed them with whatever tools she could find. How does a ship run on coffee grounds? Asked Jake. Katie shrugged. I'm not really sure. I just knew that the engine needed fuel, and I had a lot of used coffee grounds from the base cafeteria. So I mixed them with some spare reactor parts and asked the engine nicely to please work. And it did. Dr. Lisa Campbell walked up to join them. She had spent months studying how the resistance technology worked. Her scientific training told her that none of it should be possible, but her instruments showed that it worked better than conventional technology. I've been analyzing Katie's ships, Lisa said. According to my readings, they shouldn't exist in normal space. They seem to operate partially outside of regular physics. Is that dangerous? Jake asked. I don't think so, Lisa replied. It's more like they've convinced reality to be more flexible around them. The cosmic anchors can't affect them because they're not following any rules that the anchors understand. Across the galaxy, other humans had made similar discoveries. On the farming world of Green Valley, a group of farmers had built tractors that ran on good intentions and spare parts. The tractors could plow fields twice as fast as official farming equipment. On the trading station near Alpha Centauri, Merchant Captain Bill Turner had modified his cargo ship to carry twice its official weight limit. His ship shouldn't have been able to fly with such a heavy load, but it worked perfectly because Bill had politely explained to the ship's computer why the extra cargo was really important. The Resistance network shared information through Marcus Lee's impossible communication system. Messages traveled instantly across thousands of light years, using equipment that looked like it belonged in a junk pile. "We've mapped most of the cosmic anchors," reported Commander Alex Rodriguez during a secret meeting. "There are over 400 of them throughout human space. They're all connected to a central control system." "Where's the control system?" asked Captain Diana Walsh. Alex pointed to a star map. "Right here, near Earth. There's a massive Vorthic facility hidden in the asteroid belt. Our scouts say it's the size of a small moon." Jake studied the map. The central facility was heavily defended by alien warships, and close would be nearly impossible with conventional technology. But the Resistance didn't use conventional technology anymore. "What about retired Professor Davis?" Jake asked. "How are his weapons coming along?" Henry Davis had become the Resistance's chief weapons designer. His laboratory was filled with devices that shouldn't work, but somehow managed to be incredibly effective. His philosophy was simple. If you could convince a weapon that it was really good at destroying things, it would become really good at destroying things. "Professor Davis has outdone himself," Diana said with a smile. "He's built weapons that fire by asking the target politely to please explode. He calls them courtesy cannons. They work amazingly well." Lisa shook her head in wonder. "A year ago, I would have said that was impossible. Now, I'm starting to think that impossible is just another word for not yet attempted by humans." The Resistance had discovered something important about the cosmic anchors. The alien devices were designed to rewrite physics in a logical, consistent way. They expected technology to follow predictable rules, but human technology had become completely unpredictable. Pete Johnson, the farmer from New Kansas, had accidentally caused 3 cosmic anchors to malfunction simply by running his homemade irrigation system. The anchors tried to analyze how water could flow uphill just because Pete asked it nicely, and they overloaded trying to process the impossibility. "The anchors are starting to fail," reported Marcus from his communication center. "Every time someone builds a new impossible machine, it puts stress on the system. The aliens are having trouble keeping up with how weird our technology has become." Jake realized that this was their chance. The cosmic anchors were designed to handle logical, predictable physics. They couldn't cope with technology that worked through pure human willpower and creative thinking. "We need to coordinate a massive operation," Jake said. "If we can build enough impossible technology all at once, we might be able to overload the entire anchor network." "What kind of operation?" asked Diana. Jake smiled. "We're going to build a fleet of ships that shouldn't be able to exist, crew them with people who don't understand why they work, and fly them directly at the most heavily defended facility in the galaxy." Katie's eyes lit up. "That sounds like the most wonderfully stupid plan I've ever heard." "I love it." Lisa looked worried. "Jake, even if our impossible technology works, we're still talking about attacking a facility that's protected by hundreds of alien warships." "That's true," Jake said, "but we have something they don't expect. We have weapons that work by being polite, ships that run on coffee grounds, and navigation systems that find their way by asking the stars for directions." Over the next month, the Resistance built the most impossible fleet in human history. Ships were held together with hope and duct tape. Weapons were powered by good vibes and determination. Navigation computers worked by flipping coins and trusting luck. The aliens watched these preparations with growing confusion. Their sensors could detect the human ships, but couldn't understand how they functioned. The Vorthic scientists sent increasingly panicked reports to their leaders. "The humans are building technology that violates every known law of physics," reported one Vorthic analyst. "Our cosmic anchors should prevent this, but somehow they're getting stronger instead of weaker." Chancellor Zextalen was not worried. "Impossible technology is still impossible. When they attack, reality will reassert itself and their ships will fall apart." But reality had been spending a year learning to be more accommodating to human requests. The universe itself was becoming more flexible, more willing to try new things. The cosmic anchors, designed to maintain strict order, We're fighting a losing battle against human creativity. Jake stood on the bridge of his new flagship, a ship that technically shouldn't exist, but was somehow the most advanced vessel humanity had ever built. Around him, the impossible fleet prepared for the most important battle in human history. All ships report ready, announced Katie over the communication system. Engines are running on pure optimism, and we're good to go. Then let's go show the galaxy what happens when you try to make humans follow the rules, Jake said. The fleet jumped to light speed using engines that worked because their crews believed they should work. Behind them, cosmic anchors threw out. Human space began sparking and smoking as they tried to process the impossible fleet's existence. The war for the future of physics was about to begin. The battle began on a Tuesday morning. Though time had become somewhat flexible around the human fleet, Captain Jake Morrison watched from his command chair as 200 impossible ships dropped out of light speed near the Vorthic control facility. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison, Jake announced over the fleet communication system. He had been promoted during the flight, though nobody was quite sure who had the authority to promote him. Remember, we're not here to follow the rules. We're here to break them. Squadron leader Amy Foster sat in the cockpit of her fighter. The lucky break, the ship was held together with determination and a lot of prayer. Her navigation system consisted of a magic 8-ball that she had asked very nicely to help her find the enemy. This is Red Squadron, Amy announced to her. Wingman, our mission is to get close to that facility and convince it to stop working. Everyone remember to be polite to your ships. Lieutenant Chris Baker flew beside her in a ship that shouldn't exist in 3 dimensions, but did anyway. My ship says hello to your ship, Chris reported. They're getting along well. The Vorthic facility was enormous, the size of a small moon and bristling with weapons. Around it, 300 alien warships waited in perfect formation. These ships were built using the finest engineering in the galaxy, following every rule of physics exactly. Chancellor Zex Thalen stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the approaching human fleet with confusion. How are those ships even moving? He asked his science officer. Unknown, Chancellor, the officer replied. Our sensors show that they violate at least 37 fundamental laws of physics. Some of them appear to be flying backwards while moving forward. That's impossible, Zex Thalen said. Yes, Chancellor, that's what makes this so disturbing. The first attack came from Professor Henry Davis's courtesy cannons. These weapons worked by asking enemy shields to please stop working, and they were surprisingly effective. The Vorthic shields, built to withstand massive energy blasts, had no defense against polite requests. Target shields are down, reported the gunner on Jake's flagship. I asked them nicely and they said okay. The alien fleet opened fire with their advanced weapons. Massive energy beams shot toward the human ships, but something strange happened. Many of the beams missed their targets, even though the targeting computers were perfect. Some beams curved around the human ships as if they were apologizing for bothering them. This is impossible, shouted a Vorthic weapons officer. Our targeting systems are flawless. Maybe, replied his captain, but their ships seem to be somewhere else than where they appear to be. Katie Brooks piloted her fighter through the battle, dodging enemy fire by asking the Universe to please move her ship to a safer location. The Universe, which had been learning to be more helpful to humans, was happy to oblige. This is fun, Katie announced over the radio. My ship just did a loop through the 4th dimension. I didn't know ships could do that. Dr. Lisa Campbell monitored the battle from the fleet's mobile command center. Her instruments showed readings that would have given her nightmares a year ago. Human ships were phasing through enemy fire, shooting around corners, and performing maneuvers that broke every law of physics. The cosmic anchors are overloading, Lisa reported to Jake. They're trying to process our ship's movements, but they can't figure out how we're doing any of this. Good, Jake replied. Let's give them something even more impossible to think about. Marcus Lee had prepared special physics bombs for this battle. These devices didn't explode in the traditional sense. Instead, they convinced small areas of space to have really bad days. When they activated, local physics would become completely unreliable. Deploying physics bombs, Marcus announced. Warning to all ships, things are about to get really weird. The bombs activated throughout the battle zone. Suddenly, some Vorthic ships found themselves moving in circles, even though their engines were pushing them forward. Others discovered that their weapons were firing flower petals instead of energy beams. What's happening to my ship? screamed a Vorthic pilot as his fighter began moving through time backwards. "I think," replied his commander, "that the humans have made physics angry at us." Amy Foster led her squadron in a direct attack on the control facility. Her ships flew in a formation that looked like a smiley face, which seemed to confuse the alien gunners. The facility's massive weapons kept missing because they were trying to target ships that were technically in 17 different places. At once, beginning attack run, Amy announced, "Remember, we're not trying to destroy the facility. We're trying to ask it very firmly to please stop ruining everyone's fun." The facility's defenses were incredible. Weapons that could destroy planets fired at the approaching human fighters. But the weapons seemed to be having trouble deciding what to shoot at. The human ships were operating on principles that the targeting computers couldn't understand. Chris Baker's ship flew directly through a massive energy beam without taking any damage. "I explained to the beam that we're actually on the same side," Chris reported. "It agreed to let us pass." Inside the facility, Vorthic technicians watched their instruments in growing panic. The cosmic anchors were sending error messages faster than anyone could read them. The devices were trying to rewrite the laws of physics, but the humans kept changing the rules faster than the anchors could adapt. "The anchor network is failing," reported the chief technician. "The humans are generating so much impossible activity that our systems can't process it all." Chancellor Zex Thalen stared at the battle in disbelief. His perfect fleet was being defeated by ships that shouldn't exist, using weapons that couldn't work, piloted by people who clearly didn't understand what they were doing. "This is madness," he said. "No, Chancellor," replied his science officer. "This is humanity." The turning point came when Pete Johnson's homemade irrigation system, back on New Kansas, synchronized with the battle. Pete had been watering his crops when he noticed that his water was flowing in patterns that matched the movements of the human fleet. Without really understanding why, he adjusted his irrigation timing to help the battle. Suddenly, the central cosmic anchor began sparking violently. The facility's power system started failing as the anchor tried to process how a farmer's irrigation system could possibly affect the space battle. Happening thousands of light years away, all anchors are overloading, Lisa reported. The network is collapsing throughout human space. Cosmic anchors began shutting down one by one. As they failed, the original laws of physics began reasserting themselves. But something was different. The universe had learned to be more flexible during its year of dealing with human engineering. "The facility is losing power," Amy reported as her squadron approached the control center. "I'm going to ask it very nicely to surrender, Chancellor." Zex Thalen watched his life's work crumble around him. The cosmic anchors had been designed to bring order to the galaxy by making physics predictable and controlled. Instead, they had taught the universe to be more creative and accommodating. "All ships, retreat," he ordered. "We cannot fight an enemy that doesn't follow any rules." As the Vorthic fleet withdrew, Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and watched the massive facility go dark. The battle was over, but more importantly, the war for the future of physics had been won. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," Jake announced. "Mission accomplished. We've successfully convinced the universe that humans are worth accommodating." Amy Foster's fighter performed a victory roll that technically involved flying through her own wake, creating a temporal loop that made her appear to be chasing herself. "That was the most fun I've ever had," she announced. "Can we do it again?" The Impossible Fleet had won the most important battle in galactic history, not through superior firepower or brilliant tactics, but through the simple human belief that anything was possible if you asked nicely and refused to give up. Physics itself had learned to be more human. 3 months after the physics war ended, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in his office on Earth, looking out at a sky filled with impossible ships coming and going as they pleased. The view still amazed him. Ships that ran on hope and spare parts flew alongside vessels powered by the dreams of their crews. A cargo hauler held together with duct tape and good intentions passed by a passenger liner that navigated by asking the stars for directions. It was chaos, but it was beautiful chaos. "Admiral, the Vorthic delegation has arrived," announced his assistant, Lieutenant Sarah Williams. She was new to the job, but had quickly learned that working for humans meant expecting the unexpected. Every day, Jake walked to the meeting room where 5 Vorthic officials waited nervously. These proud aliens, who had once controlled the physics of half the galaxy, now looked like students waiting to meet their teacher. Chancellor Zextalin, Jake said, greeting the lead Vorthok. "Welcome to Earth." Admiral Morrison, Zextalin, replied, bowing his head slightly. "We come seeking knowledge." It had been a difficult few months for the Galactic Confederation. After the cosmic anchors failed, many alien species found that their own technology no longer worked properly. They had become too dependent on the artificial physics that the anchors created. Meanwhile, humans were happier than ever. Their impossible technology worked better than before. Ships flew faster, weapons shot straighter, and computers solved problems by thinking creatively rather than just following programs. "We need to learn," Zextalin continued. "Our ships barely function now. Our weapons cannot hit their targets. Even our Sybil tools break constantly. But human technology works perfectly. How do you do it?" Jake smiled. "Would you like to meet our experts?" Dr. Lisa Campbell had been promoted to Director of Applied Impossibility at Earth's new institute. For practical magic, the institute's mission was simple: teach anyone who wanted to learn how to make impossible things work. The secret, Lisa explained to the Vorthok delegation, is that there is no secret. You just have to stop worrying about whether something should work and focus on making it work. One of the Vorthok scientists raised his hand. "But that makes no logical sense. How can you build technology without understanding the principles behind it?" Katie Brooks, now 20 years old and the youngest professor in galactic history, laughed. "That's your problem right there. You're trying to understand everything before you build anything. We build first and understand later. Sometimes we never understand, and that's okay too." Katie had become famous throughout the galaxy for her ability to fix any machine by talking to it and hitting it with the right tool in the right place. Alien engineers traveled across space just to watch her work. "But how do you know if your technology is safe?" asked another Vorthok. "We ask it nicely to please be safe," Katie replied. "You'd be surprised how well that works." The Vorthok scientists looked at each other in confusion. Their entire civilization was built on precise knowledge and careful planning. The idea of building something without fully understanding it seemed terrifying. Marcus Lee demonstrated his latest invention to the group. It was a communication device that could send messages instantly to any point in the galaxy. It looked like a pile of random parts connected with colorful wires. "How does it work?" asked Zextalin. "I have no idea," Marcus replied cheerfully. "I just kept adding parts until it started working. Then I asked it to please work better. And it did." "You asked a machine to work better?" Zextalin said in disbelief. "Sure," Marcus said. "Machines like to be useful. If you're polite to them and treat them well, they'll do their best to help you." The Vorthok delegation spent a week at the Institute, watching humans work with impossible technology. They saw retired Professor Henry Davis build a weapon that fired by complimenting the target until it felt bad about being in the way. They watched Amy Foster teach a class on flying ships that technically existed in several dimensions at once. But the most important lesson came from Pete Johnson, who had been invited to Earth to share his farming techniques. Pete stood in front of a room full of brilliant alien scientists and explained how he grew crops that were twice as large as normal by playing them music and talking to them every day. "You talk to plants?" asked the confused Vorthok botanist. "Of course," Pete said. "Plants are living things. They like attention and encouragement, just like anyone else. I tell them they're doing a good job growing, and they try harder to make me proud. But plants cannot understand language," the botanist protested. Pete shrugged. "Maybe they can't understand the words, but they understand that someone cares about them. That's what really matters." The aliens watched Pete's demonstration in amazement. His vegetables grew visibly faster when he spoke encouragingly to them. His irrigation system, which made water flow uphill by asking it nicely, worked perfectly every time. "This is impossible," whispered one scientist. "That's what makes it so wonderful," Pete replied. Over the following months, the new physics accords were signed by every major species in the galaxy. The accords established a simple principle: if something worked, it was allowed, regardless of whether it made sense to anyone else. The Galactic Confederation was dissolved and replaced with the Galactic Cooperation Council. Instead of trying to control how other species develop technology, the council focused on sharing knowledge and helping everyone learn from each other. Commander Alex Rodriguez became the first director of Interspecies Engineering Exchange. His job was to help alien species learn human engineering techniques, while also learning what useful ideas other species might have. The Zephyrians have an interesting approach to faster-than-light travel. Alex reported during one council meeting, they sing to their engines in harmony. It doesn't make sense, but their ships are incredibly fast. The Crystalline Collective grows their computers instead of building them, added another representative. Their organic processors solve problems by dreaming about the answers. Captain Diana Walsh established the New Galactic Patrol, a peacekeeping force that used cooperation instead of force to solve problems. Her officers were trained in the art of asking hostile aliens very nicely to please stop fighting. Violence is just failed communication, Diana often said. Most conflicts can be resolved by sitting down together and figuring out what everyone really wants. The patrol's success rate was amazing. Even the most aggressive species found it hard to stay angry when Diana's officers approached conflicts with genuine curiosity and a willingness to help everyone find solutions that worked. 1 year after the Accords were signed, Jake stood on the observation deck of the New Earth space station. The station itself was an impossible structure that existed partially in normal space and partially in several other dimensions that no one could properly explain. Lisa joined him at the viewing window. Hard to believe how much has changed, she said. The best part, Jake replied, is that it's still changing. Every day, someone somewhere in the galaxy builds something that shouldn't work, but does anyway. They watched as a Vorthic cargo ship flew past, its hull decorated with colorful paintings that the crew believed helped it fly faster. Next to it, a human research vessel powered by the enthusiasm of its crew headed out to explore a new star system. Do you think we did the right thing? Lisa asked, showing everyone that the universe doesn't have to follow strict rules. Jake smiled. Look around, Lisa. The galaxy is more creative, more cooperative, and more fun than it's ever been. People are building amazing things and helping each other succeed. If that's not right, I don't know what is. Back on New Kansas, Pete Johnson finished watering his crops for the day. His vegetables were growing better than ever, and his irrigation system hummed happily as it moved water wherever it was needed. A group of alien agricultural students watched him work, taking careful notes on his techniques. Remember, Pete told them, the most important tool in farming isn't any machine. It's caring about what you're growing and believing that it wants to succeed. One of the students, a young Vorthic named Kelthon, raised his hand. But what if we don't understand why caring helps plants grow? Pete grinned. Then you're asking the wrong question. Don't ask why it works. Ask yourself if you're willing to try it and see what happens. The universe had learned an important lesson from humanity, that rules were more like suggestions, and that the best solutions often came from trying impossible things with a positive attitude. Physics itself had become more human, and the galaxy was a much more interesting place because of it. Somewhere in space, a ship held together with hope and determination carried a crew of dreamers to a distant star. The ship's computer, which ran on optimism and good intentions, calculated their arrival time by asking the destination star what would be a good time to visit. The star, which had learned to be more accommodating over the past year, suggested next Tuesday would work well for everyone. And somehow, impossibly, it did.